I think that sponsors are starting to better understand that being more holistic when it comes to their participants' financial wellness helps contribute to their overall retirement readiness.
This is 401k Specialist Editor-in-Chief Brian Anderson, and this is the 401k Specialist Podcast. This week, we're going to travel down the road to better participant outcomes with Jeri Savage, lead retirement strategist with Boston-based MFS Investment Management. We'll hit the road right after this brief message.
MFS Investment Management. For 100 years, MFS has been committed to helping investors, investment professionals, and institutions build secure futures. Find strategies and insights based on a century of active investing experience at mfs.com.
The 2024 MFS Global Retirement Survey, The Road to Better Outcomes, features insights from more than 1,000 defined contribution retirement plan participants, with respondents not only from just the U.S., but also from Canada, Australia, and the U.K. With 3 out of 4 respondents believing they'll need to save more than they are currently on track for right now to be able to retire, and 1 in 4 doubting they'll ever be able to retire, the data paints a challenging picture. We're going to ask our guest, Jeri Savage, lead retirement strategist at MFS, to break down the survey's key findings and explore how advisors and plan sponsors can help participants prioritize savings, improve retirement readiness, and navigate the complexities of target date funds. Welcome to the 401k Specialist Podcast, Jeri.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Well, first off, I'd like to start out by asking you to provide us with a brief overview of the 2024 MFS Global Retirement Survey and the overarching purpose behind it.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about our 2024 MFS Global Retirement Survey. We call it the Road to Better Outcomes. It's a survey that we've done for years. It includes global insights from over 4,000 respondents in 4 different markets, the US, Canada, UK, and Australia. I would say this year we've done something a little bit different and have included active workers and retirees from each market to be able to compare and contrast their perspectives. The overarching purpose of the survey is to gather insights on a variety of topics and then use those insights to develop actionable takeaways for our plan sponsor and advisor clients. In this year's survey, we have 3 key themes. The first is participant concerns and retirement readiness. The second is participant behavior and investment selection. And then the third is retirement expectations versus reality.
All right. Well, among some of the more alarming findings, I would say, maybe in the new survey, are that 3 in 4 retirement plan participants say they think they'll need to save more for retirement than they had originally planned. About 6 in 10 think they'll need to work even longer than they thought. And more than 1 in 4 no longer think they'll ever be able to retire. Can you add some context to these findings?
Absolutely. These are questions we've asked over the past several years, and the sentiment has been consistent year over year. Although I would note that the number who think that they can retire, the number who are thinking they can no longer retire has come down. So that's a positive development. We know that participants have retirement concerns as well as other financial concerns. We also know that their outlook has an impact on investing behavior. 45% of survey respondents said that they made a change to their retirement investments over the past year. And when asked what they did, a more common response was to change their investments to become more conservative rather than more aggressive. I would say behind all of this, economic concerns are the primary driver in those investment changes and in the statistics you noted when it comes to retirement outlook. The other thing I would say we found in this year's survey is that the level of concern shown by participants is not felt as strongly by retirees. So that's an interesting development from this year's results.
Okay, great. The study also found that competing financial priorities remains a primary issue that is keeping many participants from adequately saving for retirement. What can advisors and plan sponsors do to nudge participants towards better prioritizing their retirement accounts?
That's right. We continue to find that financial obligations are getting in the way of saving adequately for retirement. So the issue is more pronounced by generation. We found 96% of Gen Z, 86% of millennials, and 83% of Gen X say they have competing financial priorities. That data further tells us that saving for emergencies is more pronounced in younger generations, as is student loan payments. But again, perhaps a bright spot from this data is that 19% of all participants say even though they have competing financial priorities, they're still able to save adequately for retirement. Also, on a more positive note this year, we asked the question, what have you done to prepare for retirement? And we allowed participants to select all that might apply in terms of how they feel they've approached retirement preparations. 51% indicate that they started saving early. 37% acknowledge remaining invested during bad markets, and 36% say they use a financial advisor. So this is where I think advisors and plan sponsors can lean into nudging their participants, right? Reiterate all the steps, no matter how small they may seem, that can help contribute to saving for retirement.
Okay, great. So, what are some of the key questions that plan sponsors need to be asking of their retirement plan participants to help get or keep them on track with retirement readiness or their expectations about retirement? And do you think that plan sponsors are taking an active enough role in this regard?
Yeah, I think sponsors and advisors can be a key ally in helping their participants. We do have some examples of questions they should be asking their participants to nudge them in the right direction. So, for example, questions such as, do you have any financial concerns? What are you focused on financially over the next 12 months? Who do you see as primarily responsible for retirement planning? Other questions like, when was the last time you made a change to your investments in your retirement plan? What, if any, competing financial priorities do you have that are preventing you from adequately saving for retirement? And then other things like, what would help you have more retirement confidence? And what have you done to prepare for retirement? I think that sponsors are starting to better understand that being more holistic when it comes to their participants' financial wellness helps contribute to their overall retirement readiness. I also think the way that we talk about this as an industry and even through legislative efforts such as Secure 2.0 emphasizes this, and it all demonstrates that time and attention is really picking up in this area. So you asked if plan sponsors are taking an active enough role in this regard, and I would say yes, since we are seeing attention to overall retirement readiness pick up, and I would only expect that to continue over time.
All right. Well, now I'd like to talk a little bit about target date funds. The survey makes it pretty clear that participants still suffer from a lot of confusion regarding their target date funds and how they work, particularly when it comes to glide paths and the decumulation phase. How can advisors and plan sponsors address this problem and hopefully move the needle?
As part of the survey each year, we seek to better understand participant perceptions of target date funds with the goal of trying to gauge where there might be those misperceptions and the gaps that we can help address. So, starting with the positives, we see most survey respondents understand that their target date fund becomes more conservative as they get closer to retirement, and that percentage increases with age to a high of 80% for baby boomers. We also see a high percentage agree with the statement, target date funds are an easy way for me to diversify with one investment, although we see millennials understand this point best at 82%. It gets back to the original intent of target date funds being a one-stop solution for participants. However, there continues to be some significant information gaps related to the decumulation feature of target date funds. So we see a large percentage of respondents believe their target date fund provides them with a guaranteed stream of income at retirement. High percentages coming from younger generations. A concerning 58% of baby boomers express this point of view, and they're the cohort we would expect to be most tuned in to the topic of retirement. We also see a large percentage agree with the statement, target date funds provide me with a guaranteed rate of return. So again, it's good to see that the numbers decline as people age and get closer to retirement, but the numbers are still quite high. And, to us, both data points indicate that many participants mistakenly believe their target date fund includes a guarantee, either the return or a stream of income. And then finally, we have 45% of baby boomers say target date funds invest entirely in cash or other low risk investments in retirement. New this year, we did ask a separate question for participants who invest in target date funds to indicate the extent they agreed with the statement, at retirement, my target date fund will be at its most conservative point. So the survey results show a really high percentage of people believe this to be true, all the way up to nearly 3/4 of Gen X respondents and 80% of boomers. So certainly when we look at the universe of target date funds, we know it's not the case that all glide paths are at their most conservative point at retirement, or that income is guaranteed or in traditional target date funds. So all of this serves as a good reminder to plan sponsors and advisors to revisit their plan's glide path, understand how conservative or not it might be in retirement, and there clearly are educational opportunities here for participants to help engage and educate on the merits of target date funds and what they really are and are not.
Interesting. Okay. Now, as most of these types of surveys do, you can drill down on responses by age group. I'm curious, were there any generational differences in the survey that surprised you?
I'm not sure if surprise is the right reaction, but there are certainly generational differences that are expressed in this year's findings. I'd place them into a couple different categories. So the first being what participants are worried about, the second being about their level of investment understanding, and then the third category I would just call preferences. So when it comes to what participants are worried about, first we asked a question around financial areas of concern, and only Gen X and boomers list saving enough for retirement as an area of focus. We see younger generations, so Gen Z and millennials, are focused on things like saving for an emergency or managing day-to-day financial obligations. So definitely seeing a difference there. I already mentioned competing financial priorities. So again, I don't think it's a surprise, but we see that younger cohorts are more impacted by things like saving for emergencies and in responding that they feel like financial obligations are getting in the way of saving adequately for retirement. When it comes to investment understanding, right, we talked about target date fund understanding. We see younger generations are less likely to know about their attributes, which again might not be a surprise, especially if they're defaulted into target date funds and they're not necessarily engaged participants, but it is a difference. And then when it comes to preferences, the one item I would highlight is around preferences for receiving retirement advice. So here we find both gender and generational differences. An important takeaway, I think, for all of us is people rely on a variety of sources when it comes to advice. So Gen Z are more likely to use an employer or turn to family and friends for advice. Millennials are more likely to utilize an online source, and Gen X are more likely to turn to their plan provider, and baby boomers are more likely to use a financial advisor. And then finally, we do continue to see a demand for sustainability that appears to be correlated to age. So the most interest in seeing ESG investments, for example, in their retirement plan is among Gen Z and millennials.
Okay, covered a lot there. Well, it's another interesting part of the survey to me was that it found that about half of retirees rolled over their 401k assets into IRAs, with the vast majority doing so within a year of retiring. Do you see this percentage decreasing in the coming years with more widespread adoption of in-plan guaranteed income solutions?
I think this is a really good question and something everyone in the industry is grappling with at the moment. I think we have current retirees exhibiting behaviors, and we're trying to understand if those are retiree behaviors or if those are behaviors as a result of their circumstances. So do we think current participants who become retirees in the future are going to act in the same way? Or if there are different plan designs that include retirement income solutions, for example, might they act differently? So we do have data from the survey that shows current participant sentiment versus current retiree action. So your comment about retirees is correct. We see retirees who roll over their assets, 37% are rolling over their assets on their retirement date, and another 52% are rolling them over within a year of their retirement date. When we look at current participant sentiment, when we ask them how important it is for them to be able to leave their assets in their employer plan after they retire, 69% indicate it's somewhat or very important. But then when you follow up with the question, when you retire, what do you plan to do with your money? Only 19% say they're going to leave their savings in their employer's retirement plan. So we still have a disconnect there. So perhaps if more plans offer in-plan guaranteed solutions, we may see a shift in some of these statistics. But I would say, first, we don't have enough plan design change in the industry to really measure this yet. And two, even if there are meaningful additions of income solutions in DC plans, we would then need to measure participant adoption and uptake, right? So in other words, there needs to be enough retirees utilizing the solutions and actively making the choice to remain in plan before we see these numbers shift. So I think we're still a ways from that.
Okay, so you've been talking about this a little bit, but a big issue for plan sponsors is whether they should make a concerted effort to keep retirees in plan or whether to help them exit the plan upon retirement. I'm just wondering, what are some of the key factors that they need to consider in this debate?
Yeah, I think this is where our retirement expectations versus reality section can be really informative. So, for example, our survey shows participants are not very confident about their ability to retire, but retirees display far more confidence. When you ask about retirement expectations, active workers think they'll have a more gradual transition into retirement, but retirees tell us they had a hard stop. In terms of timing, most retirees report retiring earlier than expected, and for reasons outside their control. So it all serves as a backdrop or framing for the discussion of whether to keep participants in plan or help them exit upon retirement. Plan design and investment considerations for sponsors would include, evaluating the demographics of your plan, understanding how many participants are over age 50, working with your record keeper and consultant or advisor to help understand the retirement income landscape and thinking about policies you may have in place or wish to have in place that would allow participants to have a more phased retirement. I think ultimately sponsors have a decision to make on whether or not they want to keep participants in plan. So we frame the discussion as, do you want to have, we call it a destination plan where you help people stay in plan, or an accumulation plan where you help them exit gracefully at retirement. And, to us, there's no right or wrong answer, but thinking about that objective then allows you to think about plan design, allows you to think about the investment menu and supporting services you might need to have in either case. So to me, those are the key factors to consider in this debate.
Well, before we wrap up, I just want to see if there are any other key takeaways from the research that you think it's important for retirement plan advisors and plan sponsors to be thinking about.
I think we've covered so much already, but I would highlight our findings again between participants and retirees. In addition to everything I've already said, we found retirees are spending less in retirement, and likely as a result of that, they have more confidence in their ability to support a long retirement. So we know there's this skepticism around, Social Security when it comes to workers, but retirees note it as one of their primary sources of income. So our survey tells us that both participants and retirees are seeking predictability of income in retirement. They're seeking flexibility in retirement, and that they're specifically looking for advice with a preference for receiving that advice in person.
All right. I've learned a lot today. You shared a lot of great insights about the new survey. Jeri Savage from MFS Investment Management. Thanks for joining us today on the 401k Specialist Podcast.